Oh, hey guys, don't mind me. I'm just applying for a remortgage on RBR HQ here so I can afford the rising fuel costs of my combustion cars. Oh, I've been declined. Oh, well, never mind. It's not like I've been using them. Anyway, welcome back to RBR, guys. And as you know, this is my Taycan Cross Turismo 4S, my personal car that I'm absolutely addicted to. The last time that we had the Cross Turismo on the channel, it was the Turbo S that Top Gear had absolutely thrashed off-roading. And what an incredible car it was. Huge amounts of practicality versus the standard Taycan. Crazy, crazy speed, and RS6-like super wagon looks, especially thanks to the wicked-looking off-roading package. I absolutely loved the car. You guys loved it with the video almost reaching 1 million views. And I loved it, in fact, so much that I ended up ordering my own one, which then you guys saw me collect 9,000 miles ago. That's right, I've done 9,000 miles since that collection video. That wasn't that long ago. I've hardly driven anything else with my combustion cars all gathering dust. Why have I been so addicted to this car? What makes it better than my other dailies? What did I love and hate? How fast really is the 4S? And what's all this charging nonsense about? These are some of the many questions that I'm going to answer today before I drive this car in anger for you guys. So let's check it out. My first ever EV, the Taycan Cross Turismo 4S. So guys, today's episode of RBR is once again sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. They're a returning sponsor and a huge supporter of the RBR channel. And it's Raid's 3rd birthday today. Happy birthday, Raid. And this is the best time to start playing Raid because of the bonuses you're gonna get being an RBR viewer. Now, first of all, my top 3 reasons for playing Raid, first of all, are the console level graphics. Secondly, the abundance of missions that you get. And thirdly, the consistent bonuses that you get if you keep playing the game, which I think is such a rewarding factor to come back. There's no better time to try Raid for the first time and start playing if you aren't playing yet. Scan my QR code here and you'll get a massive birthday bonus package worth $40. We're talking 3 free champions, Misery Cord, Tiger Soul and Romero, plus 10 Magic XP brews, 10 Force XP brews and 10 Spirit brews. That's massive. And all the treasure will be waiting for you here in your inbox. That's only for new players, but don't worry, if you're an existing player, use the link I've given you and then use this code 3 years Raid and you will get birthday gifts worth over $25 as well. That's all you need to do. Guys, I'll see you in the game and a huge thanks for supporting our sponsors. So guys, my first EV, it's one that I think I've chosen very wisely considering how much I love it. But before I dive into that, a quick recap of what the Taycan is all about. So many variations of it, it's a true Porsche now, isn't it? All the way from rear wheel drive to 4S, Turbo, Turbo S, GTS available in saloon now as well. Of course, you've got Cross Turismo with everything but GTS, which you can only get in wagon form in the Sport Turismo, which is a car without all the off-roading stuff, but it's still a wagon. It's a little bit confusing, but Cross Turismo was the one I chose. A, because the Sport Turismo wasn't even announced yet, and B, I absolutely love the aggression of the off-roading package. Now, the entry-level Taycans normally have a choice of battery size, either the smaller 70-ish kilowatt battery or the Performance Battery Plus of 93.4 kilowatts. But in the Cross Turismo, this comes completely as standard. So you get the larger range, more powerful battery as standard with its 33 cell modules, 12 cells each and a total of 396 cells altogether. It's an impressive unit that charges really quickly. At its fastest, it can charge from 20 to 80% in about 20 minutes. Now, all Taycans make use of the permanently synchronous electric motors, always alive. This is a really efficient and powerful way of doing electric motors, and they sit both on the front and on the rear, of course, on the 4S. And on the 4S, we also have a 600 amp inverter on the rear, which is the same size as the Turbo and the Turbo S, and a 300 amp one on the front, which is slightly smaller. Now, the performance for an entry-level model is really impressive, and it's even better when you're driving, as you'll see. But the base figure is 490 that you get all the time. Then on overboost and on launch control, you get 571 brake horsepower, which is right up there in super wagon territory. 0 to 60 is claimed to be 4.1 seconds. We'll have to test that when I go out now, and we'll see how accurate that actually is. And the torque figure sits at a mighty 650 Newton meters. So it's nothing to sniff at. That's a lot of horsepower and a lot of speed, but of course it's a heavy car. How well is it going to fare versus the Turbo S, which had enough power to negate versus the weight? We will see when we go out in a minute. Now, in terms of technical and physical changes versus your standard Taycan, The Cross Turismo has 3 camber air suspension that allows it to either set really low like a nice sports wagon, or to get nice and high to clear areas needed for like off-roading, or as you'll see later, for daily use. In addition to that, of course, the rear end is all changed to provide more practicality. It increases the boot space by about 40 litres and headroom by a significant 47 millimetres as well. In actual daily practicality use, this makes a massive difference, particularly thanks to that hatchback rear boot. One essential luggage space tip for you Cross Turismo and Sport Turismo owners is get rid of the luggage cover that sits on top of here. A, you get more pegs here in order to store bags and other bits and pieces, which are really useful. But B, it stops any restriction in the height of the luggage that you can put in there. I actually found this really good pram, and I found it by searching lots of Porsche forums as what's the smallest one that might even be able to fit inside the frunk of a 911, and I found this Recaro one, which has been working really quite spectacularly. You can see even with that shoved in there, got loads of space in this boot. And you'll see what's missing here is the mobile charging unit, because I've hardly ever used it other than staying at someone's house once. If you really want to use it, I'll show you where else you can put it. And as you probably guessed, that place is in the frunk, where it fits really nicely, and a couple of more kg on the front, and that's way better than wasting all that precious space in the huge boot of the Cross Turismo. So guys, that's a quick reminder of what the Cross Turismo is and what the 4S can do. But now I've got so much to share with you that I've learned over these 9,500 miles, some good, some bad, some amazing, some a little bit weird. So let's jump into my Taycan and I'm going to fill you in on everything. So guys, almost 9,500 miles that I've done in this in a really short space of time, to be fair. Like I said, my combustion car is just gathering dust. A lot of that is down to the way that this car drives and how it makes me feel. But I think a lot of it is also because of just how bloody gorgeous it looks. And I think too many manufacturers don't pay enough attention to that when it comes to an EV, because it's so bloody important. This thing looks like a wide and brutal sports wagon, because that's exactly what it is. It's got really strong rear haunches that, again, they remind me of something like an RS6, or like, it almost looks like a caricature of a 911. So then you also add on the off-roading design package, and again, that adds more aero bits and more protection parts that, again, look more sporty than they do off-roading. Despite the fact I've done so many miles and I drive it almost every day, I almost always turn back and look at this thing, and that is so important. And it's where cars like, you know, the EQS, the EQE, etc. from Mercedes, the iX from BMW, they just fail. Despite being really good and better than this car in a lot of ways, they just fail miserably. You know, I feel like I'm driving a Porsche, which is so important. Inside, it's a similar story as well, but before I get onto that, one thing that we must tackle immediately is charging, because first and foremost, I must admit that unless you have the ability to charge at home, you're really going to struggle out there, okay? If you're living in a block of flats and you're going to try and rely on public charging facilities, my experience has been you're just going to have so much anxiety, and it's going to kill the experience. But if you can get a home charger, even if you're just charging at 3.5 kilowatts off a wall box, you're going to be so happy. Let me show you my setup that I have here with CTEK. Okay guys, CTEK Charge Master. Here it is, nicely installed at home. I've done like the Asian thing of not taking off the plastic cover, because that's what we do. We probably would have left the plastic all over this if Porsche Reading hadn't removed it. Just Asian things. Anyway, you end up preferring one side of the car, I find. I prefer this side because we've got the DC charging slot as well. You simply just plug it in, and that icon changes to the battery one, as you can see there, instead of the plug. And again, to remove it, really simple as well. You just press the icon on the side here and it pops out. And if you've got the actual proper automated charging unit here, then it closes properly as it should. So it's really easy to use. Now, in terms of power that we're getting from our CTEK charger, it charges up to 3.5 kilowatts per hour. So that's about 3.5% per hour. For overnight, this is absolutely fine. So if I use, say, well over 50% of my battery during the day, which is normal over 100 miles, this will charge the car back up to the 85% that I need it by the morning. Now, that is 3 times faster than trying to charge the car on a traditional 3-pin. Believe me, massive difference. This is why the range anxiety that I had at the start completely disappeared. So Huge recommendation. The C-Tech one has not failed me even once. It's been perfect. Cannot recommend that enough. So guys, that's my C-Tech charger. Absolutely brilliant. It's bulletproof. Now let's go and try and charge outside on a public charger. Porsche, in fact, really helped with this with something called the charging app, where it tells you, once you log in with your Porsche ID, all the charging stations in any destination that you want, which ones are still available, what kilowatts they charge at. You can filter all of that and it's live. So again, a really good app. If you're a Porsche customer, get the charging app because it will make your life and your planning with these cars that much easier. So when it comes to charging away from home, the Porsche recommended company is Ionity. You've probably heard it 1,000 times now. This is meant to be like up to 150 kilowatts, which is super duper fast. I mean, think my home charger was just 3.5, but it's a busy day. We've got other cars here as well. We've got 3 total charging ports here and they're all taken up now. Now, I mentioned Porsche's charging app. It tells you that there's only 1 slot left that we can use, which is the truth. As you can see, it's live and accurate. And rather than messing around with the screen over there, all I have to do is use the QR scanner. It picks it up immediately. I press confirm purchase, and then all we have to do is plug it in. It's literally as simple as that. All right, guys, so we've started. It's at around about 62, 63 kilowatts. So we're gonna leave that for a while and see how long it takes to get to at least 80% from here, from 26%. Okay, we're back. That's not bad. We're at 102 kilowatts charging at the moment. It's taken 22 minutes, which is a total lie, by the way, because this bastard over here was not working properly. I was having communications issues with the cars, so had to move it over here. But essentially then we went from about 30% to 76 in 22 minutes, which isn't bad. So that's more than enough now. Now we can do the driving review. So guys, that's public charging. Not perfect, but when it does work well with something like Ionity, then it is pretty damn good. And like I said, Porsche charging app is a godsend. The other app that I use a lot from Porsche is Porsche Connect. It's not the newest one. The newest one is my Porsche that I haven't quite got my head around yet. I love Porsche Connect because among many things, you can set a timer for every single day of the week for how much charge you want the car to have in the morning or at any time, and if you want the car to be nice and toasty by the time you get into it. But for example, Monday to Friday, I've had the car at 85% as soon as I wake up at 8:20 and the car to be at 22 degrees inside. So when I get in the car, I've got a toasty steering wheel, toasty seats, and I've absolutely loved this as I've had the car over the winter. We're still in April now, and I'm still using it because we have cold mornings in the UK. And the other thing that you petrol heads will absolutely love about a car like this is, say my C63, I've filled it up fully and I've used it for a day and I'm down to 150 miles range. The next morning, it's still gonna have 150 miles range. If I do that same thing with the Taycan, when I wake up the next morning, I'm gonna have, 200 miles range every single morning. And if I'm with someone in like Octopus Energy in the UK, that charge overnight will cost me £2 or £3. And you can't put a value to that. I can't explain to you how cool it is to wake up with a full battery charge if you want it. And yes, I only have, like it's showing at the moment, 230 miles range on a 100% battery. But I have that every single morning if I want it. And it's an amazing feeling, honestly. I don't do that many miles. I'm not doing 200 miles a day. For someone like that, this might not make sense, but wow. And I can also increase that. I can go into range mode, not rage mode, and that'll increase it even more. You can go into the AC menu here and put the air conditioning into Eco Plus, which is something I didn't know existed, and then that will increase your range even further, and it's something that I've used on a few longer journeys, and it works actually really well. Now I want to share a few tips and tricks about the Taycan interior, some stuff that I've loved, some stuff that I haven't gotten along with. The first thing was, I thought that you could not move where the vents pointed because of their design, nor could you change the amount of air that they blow, but that wasn't the case. You go into the climate menu and there's these clever circles and you can literally just move on the touchscreen where you want it to point and then decide how much air it's blowing. It's really, really good. Another thing that I hated about this car in the winter was that when you put the car into reverse, because the rear camera doesn't retract itself, it would be mucky through the winter, and I hated it. I thought even an A-Class retracts its rear view camera. Then I told Porsche Press and they said no, if you actually push the rear washer for your rear screen, there's a little pipe that blows water at the camera. Now, it does help, of course it does, and it serves a purpose, but it would still be better if the damn thing just retracted, honestly. The other small thing I love as a parent that I can turn the rear door locks on and off just from the window lock button instead of messing around in the door. The touchpad again was something that I discovered later, not realizing that it existed, and it's better than using the touchscreen while you're driving. Again, you have more shortcuts that you can put on the side here. Again, I put CarPlay in the middle because I use it so much. CarPlay has been great in this. It's full screen. I tend to use it more than anything else, but it's easy then to switch back to the Porsche functions, which are always here on the side on the shortcuts. Speaking of shortcuts, what I've set for my shortcuts, especially the all-important steering wheel one, is Porsche electric sound, because it's so important, and that's the first thing I set. As you can see, it turned on there. I love it, and it adds so much emotion. The other really useful shortcut is on this side, and that's for the lift mode system, which again, I've found so useful in daily driving that when you either want to jump up on a curb or you've got a really big speed bump, just hit the lift mode, the car will lift up, and you can basically traverse anything. And the other good thing about this, it has a saving function geographically. So if you've pressed it in a certain place that you always use lift, the system will save it if you want it to. How useful is that? Living with the car, we have not missed having a screen here at all, although I wish I PPF'd this side because it's so prone to scratches. So I really recommend you guys PPF this if you haven't got the screen. Additionally, I'm forever wiping screens. Such is life with a touchscreen system. I've also got the Porsche cloth as well. It's just something that you have to do. I absolutely love my GT sports steering wheel here that I got with the Race Techs. No regrets on Race Techs. Even 10,000 miles later, it's looking fantastic and it feels great. Now, a problem that a lot of us have had with Taycan has been the Pcm system, because it crashes so much. Sometimes you'll get in the car in the morning and you'll just have black screens and you'll have no idea what to do. Luckily, I figured out what to do thanks to all the Porsche forums out there. If you ever wind up in that situation, 2 fingers to the top right corner of the screen, hold it down, you see the screen's gone black here. So when you're in this engineering debug mode, all you need to do is quit and go back, and then everything should hopefully reboot itself. If you wind up in the position where you're stuck at a Porsche loading screen and the rebooting isn't helping, the only thing you can actually do is turn the car off for 45 minutes and come back. That's been my experience. But for most things, if you run into a PCM problem, do that engineering reboot and you'll be good. You can thank me later. I love the driving position of this car. The seats now I love. When I first got them, they were really uncomfortable and it took me some time to bed them in, almost like new leather boots. But once you do, they're pretty good. I think next time I'm going to upgrade to the sports seats and see how I fare with those. In the rear, we've absolutely loved it. The families absolutely love this car. They love the panoramic roof and the light that it affords you, and the headroom as well. Also having my 2-year-old in the back with his car seat, he's been so happy. You can recline the car seat as well and you still got loads of leg room. Happily sleeps in there, and the wife is happy in there because the suspension is adaptive and it's lovely and there's lots of air coming in. It's been a great car for the family, honestly. The other thing I love about this car is the ambient lighting. Not because it's got anywhere near as many options as, say, a Mercedes, but it's got this one thing called adaptive ambient lighting, which when you hear it, you think maybe it's adapting for if you're driving fast or slow, but it's not the case at all. What it instead does is it adapts to the album cover of the music that you're listening to. So if I put on, say, Blinding Lights from The Weeknd, I will have red all around my car, which is so cool. And then I'll shift to, say, Dawn FM and everything will turn blue. And that has been such a cool thing, particularly on longer trips at night, and we've all really enjoyed that. So guys, that's the interior, but this car is all about the driving experience. And that's why I love it. That's why I'm addicted to it. In addition to all of this, let me show you just how good this car is. Today, in the Tight Lycra Diaries, I can see the inside of this guy's butthole. What a Sunday. So guys, why am I so addicted to my Cross Turismo? Simply put, it's an absolute animal of a performance car. The speed is incredible. The handling, it just should not handle this way for a car that's this heavy. I recently drove the GT63S E-Performance, which is AMG's 843 horsepower, similarly weighted hybrid car. And that felt nothing as good as this does. I mean, of course, you've got the weight all at the bottom, which is so helpful. But regardless of that, the steering, the flatness with which it corners, the rigidity of the car, it's incredible. Now, before I dive further into that, Porsche's official figures say a 0 to 60 of 4.1 seconds. I just don't believe it. So I'm going to put it into Sport Plus. I really want to see what this car can do, because to me it feels way faster. Christ, I beat it. 3.46 seconds. Come on, guys. Come on. This is amazing. Oh, look at that. And I don't doubt it even for a second, because this car feels as fast as M5, as fast as E63. That is absolutely mind-blowing. You know what's just dawned on me? We tested the Taycan Turbo S, albeit in the wet, Cross Turismo of course, at 3.3 seconds, meaning it's 0.1 seconds off that. Stranger still, I just tested the Taycan GTS, which, spoiler alert, is the next video, and in Sport Turismo, that's doing 3.5 seconds as well. I've got a wonder car here. I'll never let you go. So the speed, if there was any doubt, is incredible. I mean, it doesn't feel like it's too much for the road, which certainly the Turbo S did, and I repeat that every time I drive the Taycan Turbo S. It's just too fast. The 4S is perfect. 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds is typical super saloon territory, and that type of urgency you feel in every single speed that you're doing. Whenever you need to call on power, the Taycan is there to answer. And really, there is no combination of gearbox and engine beyond something like GT3 that is as responsive as the power that you're getting from the electric motors in this and the battery in this car. Whenever you need power, it's there. It's not a case of a gearbox having to get into right gear, the engine having to cooperate with you. The blessing of the EV is that it is always there, and with the permanently synchronous electric motors in the Taycan, it's always alive and ready. The recuperation button is here on the steering wheel. It just takes one push and the car goes into recuperation mode, or hold it down and it'll do auto recuperation based on radar systems, which is hit and miss on whether it works. Sometimes if the camera's dirty on the front, it doesn't. I would still like shift paddles here like Mercedes do. I think that's a really good way of changing recuperation, and it makes the whole thing feel a bit more natural to a petrol head. Now, unlike most Porsches that I drive, the mode that I use most often is normal, because I want to get the most range out of it, but in terms of power, you get the overboost anyway. So you get all of the power you need on demand. So sports mode, not that important in this regard. Definitely when you go into Sport and Sport Plus, it's even more eager, but it's negligible in terms of the difference. It may surprise you that I keep the chassis mode in Sport the entire time, because the adaptive suspension is more than capable of handling those type of horrific UK country lane bumps, and it does it with real ease. It's funny, things have only heated up in the UK recently in terms of weather, and in the winter, one thing with EVs, Taycan included, is your range drops by about 10%. So say in the Taycan by 20-30 miles, you'll have less in the winter. So it's weird for me seeing still a healthy 212 at 90% driving like a lunatic. Now, before I go on to handling, which is such a big part of the Taycan experience, so is sound. Porsche Sport electric sound makes the emotional experience for me in this car. The sound is so good, and you even get this little gear shifting sound. So of course, there's a 2-speed transmission in this. Though it's not as obvious in my Cross Turismo as it is in the new GTS, which makes that gear changing sound really exciting. That's got its own soundtrack in it. I can't wait to show you that very soon. My 2-year-old absolutely loves this car. Whenever I drive fast and I put my foot down and you hear the electric sports sound, he'll be in the back going, wee, or something like that. And again, look, this is inspiring the younger generations, like, you know, the roar of a V8 would. And I don't miss my V8 rumble when I'm driving this car, because it's providing me something in replacement of. As we get into the handling section, I want to say from the offset, I did not get Porsche rear wheel steering, I didn't get Porsche Torque Vectoring Plus, and I did not get the Power Steering Plus either. So this is really as base as it gets on Cross Turismo in terms of handling. despite that, this is amazing. Truly, I mean, the steering feel it's up there with the best super saloons, okay? It's really great on feedback, it's direct, the wheels point faster than you can point your hands, and the body control is, it's magnificent. I reckon I could run circles around a car like the GT63 SE Performance in this. I mean, I probably couldn't, but the fact that it's giving me the confidence to say that I could speaks volumes for how the driver feels when they drive this. It should not, by all rights, handle the way it does. And like I said, this is the base options when it comes to handling. Special mention to the brakes as well. I've gone for the standard steels, as you guys know. I didn't go for the Porsche compound brakes or the PCCBs. And the stopping power is enough. You think that maybe it will struggle given the weight of the car, but I drive this thing bloody fast and the brakes are more than up to the task. It really feels like you can go from the luxury Panamera type drive to that crazy weekend super saloon just at one push of the pedal. There's very few cars in the world that can do that with the effectiveness that this thing does. It's just a testament to what an amazing car even the base Taycan is. It's, for petrol heads, it is the best EV that you can have. And I can't evidence that more than by how addicted I am to this car. I love it to pieces. And look, 87%, I've still got 198 miles. I'm really happy with that. In the future, of course, I would not balk at having more range. 100 miles more, up to 300, like all the other EVs these days, would be a great addition. I'd like to see a little bit more interesting things happening in the interior other than just screens, because Porsche are so good at making nice looking hardware. For example, I don't really like the gear changer here. Give me something here like a normal Porsche has. When I drive this car in anger, it really makes me believe that when Porsche make an all-electric Cayman, it's really going to work, not just in terms of excitement and speed, but also in terms of emotion. And I'm excited to see how they do that with a sports car. I would love to see a fully electric 911 now that I've lived with this thing long enough. I think that could be amazing. I would also love for there to be a start and stop sound for this EV, which is the one thing that it doesn't have in sound, and perhaps other profiles that differentiate the sound from comfort to sport and sport plus. So that's the Taycan Cross Turismo, truly a proper super wagon rather than being a by the way sports EV, and it's one that's given me as a petrol head so much pleasure, not only getting my head around this idea of having so many miles every morning to wake up to, which is a joy, but to be able to drive the car like I would drive my combustion super saloons and derive that much emotion still out of it, have the car still look incredible on the road or parked up. It's really almost perfect. Just need a bit more range. Now the only car that I could possibly ever think of replacing this might be the Sport Turismo GTS, which just happens to be the next video. What's going on? That's right guys, coming up next on RBR could be the car that supersedes my 4S as the Goldilocks Taycan, and that is the Taycan GTS in Sport Turismo form. Stay tuned for that, coming up next on RBR. Please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.